or presents Tag Sale. You're it.
This is Gary Butterfield.
This is Cole Ross.
This is Zack Handlen.
Here we are.
Here we are. No refunds.
Yeah, talking to a big episode this week. And as you heard, we're joined by a guest, Zack. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's good to have you here.
Good to
Zack.
be here. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Good to know.
You don't have to make
Zack,
that call right now. You can wait till the end. We're not going to force you to
thank
decide.
God.
How.
All right.
Yeah, your receipt will have a little place where you can take a survey.
Are the shackles supposed to make my back hurt quite this much, or am I supposed to have a little bit more wiggle room?
They are supposed to make your back hurt, but you look so good, dude.
Yeah.
like
Thank you.
they really
Thank you.
make your eyes pop, and
Yeah.
the shackles make your eyes pop. Zack is a writer who we know because he's a part of our community and also has reviewed this show for the AV Club. Zack, can you talk a little bit about how you got your relationship with this show, what you do, and why you chose this episode?
Cool. Well, it's kind of I'll let you decide if it's a funny story. It started back when the AV Club first started doing TV Club style reviews. I was just working as a freelance book reviewer at the time. I think I'd been on for like maybe 3 or 4 months. And I was very eager to get into the TV Club stuff because it sounded much more my jam. Like the books were fine, but basically you had to like read a book a week, and it could be very. It was a large amount of. It was a big demand, especially I was working like 2 other jobs at the time. So I really wanted to get involved in the TV Club stuff, and it had a chattier approach to the writing too. So I kept pitching, and they decided they were going to have somebody cover Adult Swim. This was very early on in the days of TV Club when they hadn't really settled into the rhythm of doing one episode or covering series. They were just trying to figure out the format. So basically they had me for maybe, God, I think it was like 2 or 3 months covering everything that aired on Adult Swim on Saturday and Sunday nights.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot.
So Saturday nights was anime night.
Yeah.
So I started on with like half a dozen different shows, like near the tail end of like Death Note, and like 2 or 3 other shows, all of which had been going on for a couple of years, all of which were like 3/4 of the way through their main plot. And I was trying to review them, and I had no idea what was going on.
No context at all.
And on Sunday nights, the whole reason I got the gig was because I pitched wanting to write for Venture Brothers because I love the show. And Sunday nights, I couldn't just write about the Venture Brothers. I also had to write about Squidbillies and Assy McGee. And
Right.
I think those are the 2 worst ones. But like, how do you review Assy McGee? Like, how do you? What do you say beyond just typing
it's an
the title?
anthropomorphic ass that shoots people, I think.
Yeah.
So
there's your opening. There's your thesis.
Yeah.
God, if I had a time machine. And it sucked because I was basically watching like 2 or 3 hours and then having to try and write. And it was especially frustrating with the Venture Brothers because I really just wanted to talk about the Venture Brothers, but I had to like go through and then have a couple of paragraphs about God. I did Metalocalypse, and that was fine. But,
that's fine.
Yeah.
What's
so
the 12-ounce mouse up to these days?
It was like basically like with the period of time where I didn't really understand. I don't know. I was so grateful to be working and writing for the AV Club, which I've been a fan for years, that I don't think I really understood what a reasonable expectation was, because I think I was getting paid like maybe $50 a review, maybe. And like it was so much work for just covering stuff that was nonsense. But I really wanted to do the Venture Brothers because I hadn't really caught into the show in the first season. I think I'd seen a couple of early episodes, and I get kind of uncomfortable with like the sort of aggressive kind of cruelty comedy that was kind of the times. And I at first kind of put off because it just seemed like, it was just, they're basically just making a joke about how dumb Johnny Quest is. And I get it, but I didn't really find it as funny. And I didn't really understand that there was anything else going on. And then I think, weirdly enough, I think at the time, the end of the first season was actually what kind of pulled me back in, because it had such a unexpectedly dark ending. And then the second season, the way they picked that up, I was pretty much in love with the show from then on. And the reason I picked this episode is it legitimately is the only episode that I clearly remembered from the first season.
Yeah.
And I've actually been rewatching along with you guys because I've been listening to Orb, which by the way has been great.
Thank
you already
you.
have me on, so but it's been really fun to revisit this stuff. And the third season does hold up a lot better than I remember it, and there are a lot of episodes that I actually really like. But Tag Tellurate to me is oh god, I mentioned the name of the episode. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
But like Tag Tellurate is the first episode that really hits this feeling of like the hangout vibe that is what I love the most, I think, about the Venture Brothers. Well, we'll get into obviously we'll get into it later, but I think the reason that I picked it is it captured something that felt new to the show for the first time, because a lot of the stuff that they were doing, a lot of the jokes that they've been doing up to this point, a lot of that theater cruelty stuff wasn't incredibly new. Like the idea of pointing out superheroes could be kind of stupid wasn't the most brilliant idea in the world. It didn't have legs to it. And kind of pointing out that Johnny Quest was kind of, wouldn't it be funny if it was real life? It's like a good joke, but it only goes so far. Mm-hmm. And watching like Tag Tellurate, it's like, this is the show this is why you watch the show. It's
this
like
is what it becomes.
Yeah. It's that feeling of like you're just spending time with these characters and this rich history and these goofballs that you can relate to, and the stakes are never particularly high. And I just there's a lot of good gags and like well, obviously we'll go through the whole thing, but I think I have a very fond memory of like if I wanted to introduce. I probably would use a later episode because the animation is better, but if I wanted to introduce the show to someone using the first season, I would go with this one.
Yeah, I mean, this absolutely does nail something that is special to the show, which is the mixture of like the fantastical and the mundane. I mean, just the idea of a buy two get one free death ray table at a yard sale, and all these people coming in and kind of like looking at the logistical needs for what would have to happen for this. It's like, yeah, no, sign me up for this.
Well, the logistical needs, right? So like the point that what if Johnny Quest horrible, what if superheroes are real, it'd be horrible, is not very original, but where you get the kind of gold is when you keep following that thread. And that's the thing that I think the Venture Brothers does. It's never just that front street joke. It keeps saying like what would happen then and what would this be like in new scenarios. So this this episode is not just about this mundanity. It's also like Dr. Venture has bills to pay though. He's shitty. He's born into this thing, into this kind of legacy, but he's not good at it. So he does what a normal person would do. He does like, what if you were broke and you're in the situation, you couldn't invent your way out of it? Last episode we had conjectural technologies, like living in their, in their camper. There's probably not a whole lot of business for this stuff. There's going to be people kind of on the margins. Not everybody's going to be Professor Impossible.
It's sort of a literal interpretation of what Doc does the entire series, is that he's basically taking his father's legacy and reselling it. That's the only movie he has
for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
And I love when he rejects, like Billy's trying to haggle with him and he gets so proud that he's like, no sale. Guess what? Here, you don't get it.
Classic Doc pride stuff. The conflict of that character. Real good episode. It's a Doc Hammer joint. And this originally came out on October 9th, 2004, that fateful day. And as we kind of mentioned the premise of this, it's that they're holding a yard sale. I'd never heard the phrase tag sale before. That's regional. So some people, yard sale, garage sale, and tag sale are the three different kinds of sales. And then in the UK, it's a boot sale.
Yeah, I always like the boot sale because I guess you sell it out of the trunk of your car. Sorry, the trunk of your lorry.
The lorry of your pram. You show up, and everybody opens their trunk and sells stuff out of their trunk in like a big field.
Yeah.
Huh. So this is garage sales. There's a lot of history there.
Ever since there was currency and objects,
ever since there were yards.
But they went with this version for the for the pun, and this is a really gag heavy episode. One of the things that I think makes this so notable is that this yard sale is drawing in a ton of dangerous people. And boy, does this give them a chance to really stretch their legs and do fun visual designs and pun names for all of these villains and scientists and stuff.
Oh,
This is like Jackson Public's superpower.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are
Yeah.
they still doing that after like seven seasons? They're still able to pull out it's amazing. And like for just gags that you literally will never see most of these characters again. Just like we had a name, we drew something, that's fine. It's just it's amazing.
Yeah, it's so good.
But the intangible fancy, like when you go to his wiki page, this character pops up all the time. And like a lot of these characters are just riffraff. Like it's the dregs of the guild, basically. Whenever they need a bunch of people, they roll them out. And it's very funny.
Yeah, I love the intangible fancy. In writing order, this is our first Pete White and Billy Quizboy. So we got those show favorites.
Yep.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
Because they like nailed the characters feel much even clearer than they did like in earlier episodes. Like the back and forth between them, the kind of nerdy like fanboyism. Yeah, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. And the art book, this is a new point, but I think that it's real sweet in the interview that they have here for this episode. It's them, it's Public and Hammer talking about how they see themselves in 21 and 24 and Pete and Billy, and just kind of pointing out that like, whenever we have two dipshits that are friends or who talk to each other, we want to be those characters.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the big side effects of this show is making me incredibly jealous of that friendship.
Yes.
Yeah, just not expecting.
So I'm not good enough for you, huh?
Yeah, you'll always be my Billy Quiz boy.
Okay, all right. Okay.
What I also love in the commentary, they talk about after season 1 they were told to stop using those characters when they got picked up. And they were just like, no, they're actually going to be incredibly important.
They actually do that again with Sergeant Hatred. I got to interview them a couple of times, and like they actually literally just said, "Oh, he makes everybody uncomfortable." Oh, and the Moppets too. If they make you uncomfortable, if people are ejecting, screw it. We're just going to keep putting it back.
Yeah.
I got that kind of churlishness is really great to me. Because it's a kind of they're assured and confident in their instincts. Like they think Pete White and Billy Quizboy are great, and also Gary thinks that as well.
Yeah.
And who cares what some dude at Adult Swim thinks? Make the show directly for me.
Yeah, they're just
like
the
you
people who
have
put it on television. What do they matter?
Yeah. They don't, yeah. Just real good. There's also a bunch of other first Phantom Limb on this. Like I had no idea he would turn out to be as important as he does. Really, really monumental episode. Great Hank episode for Hank just putting on a costume and pretending. And just his weird little internal life. That he has.
Yeah, you guys have talked about it before, but yeah, that joke never gets old. Like they do it the whole run of the series, and it is still one of the most perfect jokes. Like I mean, if it comes up in any context, I will always enjoy watching a character take an improv or take a fiction inside the fiction like completely seriously. It's amazing.
Way too far.
Yeah,
and just in his invented backstory that he's just expecting everybody to go along with. Yeah. And also, he calls a sandwich a grinder. So this is very regional because that's also a weird little regional name for a sub. I'd never heard grinder before this episode.
Oh yeah, I think they use that here in Maine. I definitely heard it before.
Yeah, no. Homer calls it. It's like, a sub. I'm tired of eating subs. I want to eat a hoagie. I want to have a grinder.
I know. Yeah. For me, they're always subs.
Yeah. No, same. That's
out of all those, I think a hoagie is the least appetizing sounding one.
Yeah.
Like grinder sounds like he should be in Thunderdome, but like hoagie sounds like he should be in Thunderdome as well in a worse way.
Oh man. But yes, Hank Co's. I mean, it's the first appearance of Hank Co, of course. And Hank weirdly being a good businessman.
Yeah. It's a very, very ruthless businessman at the very least.
Yes. Yeah. So do we want to get into it?
Yeah. Let's do.
So the cold open here in the commentary, they say, "Oh God, this is drag ass." And yeah, it's a lot of setup, but it's a good joke. I like that we have all of these Secret Service agents getting ready for what seems to be a really, high stakes mission. Up to the point where like Brock says, if we play our cards right, we might see sunrise.
Yeah. They also think.
Oh yeah.
They just it's really just it. Every time Brunette Hank is there, I'm just like, what? That strange off-brand Hank.
Yeah.
That rare Pepe or whatever that's in the background. There's a little like the joke here about him having this fetish for putting everybody into a dress.
Yeah.
Is real weird. Like I can see how it works on the page.
Well,
but...
I think it works for me because I watched this with Caroline. My fiance Caroline. She and I watch all this stuff together. And we were talking about it, and we kind of settled on. The show definitely does do humor like that doesn't always work, or sometimes it's more questionable. But to me, this bit worked because it actually made him more specific as a character, because it was his fixation on it. Like, nobody seemed particularly horrified at the idea of having to wear a dress necessarily. It's more that he's just very, very determined.
Keeps bringing it up.
Yeah, to get somebody in a dress before we get through the day. Like, it makes it like a weird quirk as opposed to just, the joke isn't it funny to see a guy in a dress?
I think that I agree with that. I think the thing that makes the joke feel strange for me is how drawn out it is.
Yeah.
There are large portions of non-joke in the middle of this joke.
That
keeps coming up. It's just very strange. Like, it is a little drag ass, but it is it's cute.
Yes.
As a reveal.
Especially when Brock gives them the go ahead and talks about dividing the perimeter up into quadrants, and the strong quadrant will absorb the weak quadrant and stuff like that. And then he gives the thumbs up, and then we reveals what the mission is. Just we've got Hank and Dean over by the compound gates pounding in the yard sale sign. Letting the event begin, which is the event of the season, turns out, or at least that's the way the Monarch sees this.
Yeah. Everyone's there.
I love the idea of like all these like B tier villains just being social butterflies, like just desperate to sort of sit around and gossip and backbite each other, and you have to keep up your appearances. Like, it's so fitting with the whole concept of Venture Brothers, and that this is all just a game. Like, their consequences are always serious, but it is really just they're playing dress up all the time.
This is how we play.
Yeah,
like G.I. Joe. Yeah, we shoot above each other's heads.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The Monarch Mobile is real weird. This is a weird incarnation of it. The weird beetle-shaped Monarch Mobile. It looks like a Protoss unit. I prefer
I prefer the one that's just an actual car.
And then this begins, 21 and 24. Again, like kind of early appearance of them here, and like real standout line for me that where they're talking about where they do these things where they're arguing and you don't know what they're arguing about until somebody calls it out. That is a joke I always like. Where it seems like people are talking nonsense and talking about their crazy fantasy fist fight between Anne Frank and Lizzie Borden. Really good. Anne Frank, as we all know, but then Lizzie Borden was one of the first lady female killers, not somebody who killed female, but was a female who killed. Was an axe murderer.
Infamous. Infamous story.
Infamous parents 40 whacks.
Yep.
Probably because they horribly abused her. But
It's pretty good.
It's fun.
There's a good stuff you should know episode about the case of Lizzie Borden, actually, that goes into the ways that's more complicated than the legend made it seem. Yeah. But just the idea that you would put them against each other and just talking about like, oh, but she's a scrapper. Yeah. Okay.
She's a survivor.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain I've mentioned this before on a show, but one time in high school we went and saw a play version of the Diary of Anne Frank.
Okay.
In my little podunk town at our little art theater, and one of the bad kid class clown kids, I was funny in high school, but everybody hated me. And then there were the kids who were funny, but then they skateboarded.
Right.
At one point, they had the really tense scene where Anne Frank is up in the attic, and then the Nazis come down, and he stood up and yelled, "She's in the attic, you dumb Nazis!" In the theater.
Oh my god!
It was very, very uncomfortable, and he got taken out of the theater.
Of course he did.
Yeah, he got escorted out. It just the semiotics of doing that is very funny because he's kind of helping them, but also like, you idiots.
It's hard to figure out where to fall on that one, actually.
Yeah.
Like I'm laughing because it's shocking, but also
He's a weird flex.
Yeah.
Grant Kirsten is the name of that kid, I think.
okay.
So.
Do you want people to dox him?
No, I mean,
Okay.
it's just a name and a last name. You know, I'm not gonna say where he lives. I don't even know if he's still alive.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, maybe he never came back from the theater after they took him out.
Yeah. No. So anyway, Monarch tells them to shut up. You know, saying we have to take this seriously. Everybody's going to be there. You know, don't do not embarrass me as they're driving in. And Hank and Dean are doing something that was always a fixture of like when family had yard sales was like, oh, why are you selling this? Why are you selling this thing?
Yeah.
Come on, no, I use this all the time. You never use that, but it's mine. Dean doesn't want them to sell his Mr. Microphone.
Well, and his like Princess Etheria or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Action figure. You know, that's the first joke is just him playing with dolls, and then it's the Mr. Microphone.
Yes.
Where he says a bunch of lines from Convoy. There. That you know, again, very fun. Brock comes over and tries to tell Rusty like, "Hey, we shouldn't do this. You know, this is ridiculous." And Rusty is obviously downplaying it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's like if you can think of a better way to make some quick money off of my dad's junk, you tell me. And Brock, of course, is right about this. Although, like, things would not have gone poorly if Monarch was able to use the restroom. So, you know, we'll see.
Got his groove, you know.
Yeah, I feel like in like a later season they would have done something where somebody would buy something in a scene and we would forget about it for 2 episodes and then it would come back and feature it into the finale. Because here it's just sort of it ends in a big ruckus fight. A ruckus fight? What am I, like from the 1930s?
It's a fight. It's a fight ruckus.
It's a rumpus. It's a rumpus. Yeah, but like it's I got nothing. I finished the sentence there.
No. It's a well. They would have definitely done that, and it's also very endemic of the season 1. Like, time to end the episode now.
Yeah.
You know, energy. Like, okay, we did our joke. Let's go. We got places to be.
Yeah.
You know, so it does just kind of end.
Yeah.
It's not like if Monarch had gone to the bathroom because he came in, you know, intending to start trouble. When he goes to the checkpoint in a little moment, he like slips in his wrist shooter.
Yeah, his little dart gun thing.
So he wants to do some arching while he's here, just a little bit of arching on the side.
Yeah. Everybody else seems pretty committed to behaving though. Except for the fact that they're being
great.
Yeah, except for the fact that they're buying very dangerous things again from the laser death ray bargain bin. But yeah, the villains and scientists are all lined up at the security checkpoint, and I love how catty Monarch is.
Oh God, all the interactions between him and Dr. Girlfriend are amazing in this episode.
Yeah, very very lived in, and just an incredibly quotable episode. Like the delivery on Depeche Mode, like Depeche Mode, is something I think about a lot. You know, the famous line where it's like they see the guy from Depeche Mode, which first of all, why is the guy from Depeche Mode coming to buy
a shrink
Death
ray,
Rays?
dude?
He wants a shrink ray.
Yeah.
You know, truly the Black celebration can begin. And you know, he's going to do that, but then also just, you know, he's there with a woman? Isn't he gay? Come on, he's in Depeche Mode. That felt very like a very lived-in conversation to me. I saw a thing on the VH1. You know,
on the VH1.
Yeah, and then Pete and Billy are kind of rumor mongering about them.
Yeah, rumor mongering about Dr. Girlfriend. Go ahead, Zach.
No, it's interesting how the joke with Dr. Girlfriend's voice is something that they use in the first season, and it's like kind of a joke, and they occasionally reference it, and then it sort of, as the show goes on, because it stops being funny, it just, no one actually questions the voice anymore. Because I feel like the joke they have here, which I think is kind of implying that she might have been, that there might be something else going on there. It feels okay for Pete and Billy just because of the way they are, but it also feels like a kind of humor that they eventually put aside, which is cool because Dr. Girlfriend is one of the most well-adjusted characters on the show. Yeah, the conversation is great. It like the specific, the way it starts, that specific joke about Dr. Girlfriend feels odd, but the payoff about the baboon uterus and like the face, what was it, the face on the appendix or something
on a well-known celebrity.
It's just chef kiss.
Yeah, well, I mean, just Billy being plugged into this rogue surgery world that he is. I like that. Yeah.
Secret surgeries.
Yeah, but like even beyond this, like the idea, they're looking at Monarch and Dr. Girlfriend, but they're jealous. Like, like that's kind of a strain that's going to be running through this, which is like, oh gosh, Dr. Venture is so lucky. And Dr. Orpheus feels this way too. He's getting all of this attention. He has arches. You have to be a big deal to get an arch assigned to you. And that's going to be part of Billy and White's arc, or purpose in this episode is to like ask like, hey, do you want to, do you want to come and arch us? Are you tired of going after Venture? But yeah, just this idea of being, they're here to social climb as well, even though they're not associated with the guild.
Well, and they are, basically in Doc's position.
Yeah.
So like there's two different contrasts going on here. One, Billy and Pete, who have exactly as much qualifications as Doc,
Yep.
but they don't have his legacy. So they don't have this. And then Dr. Orpheus, who can do fucking magic.
Right.
And he has to look at Dr. Venture getting all this attention and being treated as a threat when he can raise the dead and shit.
Yeah.
And that's got to be a real slap in the dick, like I can levitate things. Like, what is this? Like, why is this guy getting the big leagues?
Well, it kind of fits in with like one of the things about the show is this idea that you have all these superheroes and all these villains, and literally all they ever do is just fight each other. Like a kid, like you very rarely see people trying to commit crimes. You very rarely see people actually trying to like steal something, or it's always about the infighting, which is why Orpheus's powers are almost like, at least until he makes his own group, are almost kind of useless because he doesn't have an enemy, so he doesn't have anything to do with it. He just can kind of be a dad.
Yeah. And then one of the things I love the show does later is when somebody isn't playing the game, it's very serious. Like when they move to New York and there are the people who actually do fucking crimes. Yeah. Or you run into like Red Death, who's a fucking professional. Yeah. And it's just like everyone's scared shitless of that dude, because it's like he's not really playing the game.
No. He just
that we're all playing.
He comes out once a year.
For him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Very good. Little joke with Baron Underbite going through the metal detector and having to take off his jaw, which is very disgusting. Like somebody doesn't have a jaw. I think that, that's probably not great.
His big old tongue flopping down. Yeah.
Yeah, just a tongue. It's weird because he's covered in metal.
I was wondering about that.
I asked for a screen. For it. I think that's very cute.
Is there a privacy screen? And of course, everybody is horrified by it.
One little bit too, I want to call out before we move past it a little bit. When Doc is talking to Brock about this, when every once in a while the show will drop something and I want to know what it is because it's rich with reference. He says like nobody ever reads the Val packs. Did you guys know what a Val pack was?
Oh yeah, I get those things all the time. Yeah.
I did not until I looked it up.
Yeah, so Valpak is a company that it's like junk mail. What they do is they send around like local mailers with coupons and stuff like that. So it's like a blue envelope that you get that that just has just a bunch of coupons that you're never going to use because it's for businesses you've never heard of. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to get those when I was a kid. I remember that.
Yeah. It's just weird. I didn't know about it, and like every once in a while I'll take an opportunity to look something up that's mentioned in this show.
Yeah.
Nobody ever reads the Val pack anyway.
Yeah, Val pack would be the kind of thing that Rusty would advertise in. But when Baron Underbite's jaw is off, Monarch uses that as a distraction to slip his dart shooter into an agent's pocket. So we've got a weapon inside the compound here. And we also have Doc Venture pulling a Homer Simpson and selling Dr. Orpheus's weed whacker.
Back to him like Ned. Dr. Orpheus has to help here with this stuff, and because he's very jealous initially. This is like when that when that thread kind of starts, and this is where during this whole thing is when we're getting all the walk bys.
Yes,
like all the cameos of later characters that are not being used, like really amazing stuff, like the guy with the plug for a face with the grounded outlet.
He doesn't have a name, it's just Plug Face Man.
Plug Face Man, Hate Bit.
Love Hate Bit.
Who's Hate Bit's amazing, and then Chairman Wow, who is from the Pitch Book.
Yep.
Who doesn't show up until way later. But yeah, there's a lot of like great little side characters, including some that I don't really know that we ever got named. There's like the dude with a cyborg arm.
Yeah, Henry Danger, I think his name is.
Is that Henry Danger?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a like that guy is like an in joke for the animation team, I think, is what the wiki says for them. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there are a couple of
real
scientists,
pleasure.
like there's a scientist in a mechanized wheelchair, stuff like that. Like they're all just
Yes.
in the background. Actually, I can't imagine coordinating the animation for all of this. That's a lot of detail to put in and send away and hope that it gets sent back right. So
The guy in the wheelchair is actually a character named Dr. Cribble, who was cut from the pilot that they reused, using every part of the what they did.
yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, Monarch gives 21 and 24 their shopping list, and he gets the dart shooter out. But yeah, they're here to get stuff for the cocoon, because I mean we'll find out in the next season. Most of their gear is stolen, from Sergeant Hatred. But 24 and 21 were brought along at least for a little purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk. This introduces the Hank arc of this. Hank went from doing nothing,
Yep.
just kind of berating things, to setting up a stand because he wants to get a little bit of that do-re-mi. Setting up his Hank Goes Lemonade and Grinder world.
Yeah.
And,
Selling slices off of a big old party sub.
Slice of Grinder.
His speech later, we'll get to it, but his speech later on about like how the whole business works is amazing. Yeah, I love how Hank's attitude, because I feel like Hank, over the run of the series, Hank is generally happier than Dean. They both suffer a lot, and like Hank, goes through it, so to speak. But like Dean is more self-aware, whereas Hank has this sort of like kind of just go with it and embrace whatever happens. Is like he's just cheerful and happy about everything. Like I love how that dynamic plays out. I love how it kind of balances off for them here. Just that idea, because Dean is self-aware enough that he can't, in a way he's more like his dad, because he's self-aware enough that he can't actually play the games that they're all doing, because he knows deep down that it's all kind of stupid and weird and embarrassing. Whereas Hank actually fits in with this world, because he's already willing to just put on a costume whenever the opportunity arises, because that's and it's like a state of frozen, like Arrested Development, in that he can never get like really grow up. Like he always seems like more of a kid, even as Dean gets older. But like he's much more prepared and to be comfortable in this world.
Out of everyone, he's the most who's already basically a boy adventurer.
Yeah,
he could have been Rusty Venture.
Yeah.
Kid Adventure pretty easily.
Yeah.
And them doing that contrast of like Dean is the real world, Hank is this fake world.
Yeah. Like both, like neither of them are especially well adjusted, but Dean is more well adjusted for our world. Hank is more well adjusted for his world. And like Hank's sensitivity, like where he ends up falling down, is that he needs like a closer connection to people than Dean does. Whereas Dean needs kind of just more, kind of like achievement, I guess.
Hank needs like a situation to tell him what to be. Like Hank needs an outfit to put on. He needs like a Dermot. He needs like just a role to play. Whereas Dean actually has that horrible like self-awareness of like, I'm going to be a person. I have to actually figure out, and like just realizing how miserable it is to be a person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh gosh. But
the thing we talked about earlier about him going whole hog into the fiction. So not only did he do this thing, like come up with this little bit, but there's a backstory to it and stuff too. Like he sends Dean off for a break, employee Dean, saying he can't risk another strike. Now we know Hank Goes Lemonade and Grinder World just appeared. This isn't new. But later he's like, there's a reason why I chose this neighborhood. Like things like that. Like he's playing pretend in a really deep way.
yeah.
It's very sweet. I really like when it cuts to the mid conversation with Dr. Girlfriend turning down Billy and Pete. She's spoken for as an arch, and them trying to sell it on her. This is really, really good.
Yeah.
Billy going on at length about his hydrocephaly. Hydrocephaly? Did I get it right?
Hydrocephaly, yes.
Well, I got it right the first time.
Yeah.
And then the delivery, like he goes on at length, and then Pete is going, and I'm an albino, is one of my favorite line reads in the whole series. You could kill him with a flashlight.
Yeah,
so good.
Oh God, just making this desperate appeal, like Oh yeah, I'm smarter because look at me, my head's huge.
And I love how nice Dr. Girlfriend is about it. How like genuinely sweet. Like she's not she's not trying to be horrible about it. She's just like, oh boys, I'm very flattered. It's such a good dynamic.
Yeah.
Someday I'm sure you'll make some villain very happy.
Yeah.
Like it's obviously literally the language of turning somebody down for a date.
Yeah.
Or for a relationship.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. But Dean, he took his break, so he's not going to go on strike. He saw Triana. That's why he wanted to leave. And he catches her. She's buying some comically large granny panties, and she's just along for the ride. She's game for all of this.
Yeah, those have to be the boys' mom's panties, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, or
Rusty,
grandma. Rusty hooked up with a grandma and stole them as a trophy or something.
Yeah. Who Jonas Senior? Who was Rusty's mom? Do we ever know that?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
What are the provenance of these panties? Take that clip.
I was expecting it to be like a joke to humiliate Dean. Like I was expecting him to go, "Oh yeah, I used to wear those when I was a kid because of some reason." And obviously, there's no reason for him to have worn those. But like, it has such the classic setup of, "Oh, there's this girl I like. Oh, she found something that's hideously embarrassing."
Mm-hmm. Like a picture of him naked in a bathtub or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh gosh. But yeah, it's a fun little visual gag. Also a fun visual gag is Dr. Orpheus using his magic to bag some toys. Again, for these frogmen, for these scuba divers who are in full scuba on land.
Buying Rock'em Sock'em robots.
Yes.
Really, really good.
But this is where Dr. Orpheus expresses his jealousy about all the attention that Rusty gets. And he has a point.
Yeah. Monarch bumps into Brock, pretending to lose his contact, and you think this is going to be his bid to start shit, but really he just did this on a bet with Dr. Girlfriend.
Yeah,
the bet was that he could get him to help.
Yeah,
I love the way this sets up how like. God, can I even express this? The idea that all these characters are aware of each other and they all like Brock Sampson has a reputation. Like everybody knows who Brock Sampson is. Like it does. Like this episode is really great in terms of like world building, just not necessarily specific characters, although we get like Phantom Limb and whatnot, but just in the sense that all these people are constantly aware of each other and making decisions based on what they know about each other, which is like it helps make them all seem that much more real, which is so important to the show. I just like the whole idea that you would like. It just seems like such a prank that you would do, or like a real life thing that like everyone knows that Brock will fucking murder you. I'm sorry, fucking murder you. And like, and just the fact that he tries to get him to pick up the contact lenses.
Yeah. It's a dare. It's like a very lived in, their relationship.
It's like that's like a bar bet. Like, I bet you I can't get 5 numbers by the end of the night or something like that. Yeah. It's like a fratty kind of bar bet kind of thing. Just based on the understanding that Brock, when he's on the job, he's all business.
Yeah. Well, and that he would take offense at somebody bumping into him.
Well, of course.
Later earlier somebody made fun of his mullet and he came back to stab him.
Right.
So it's not a bad bet that he would do that. And this is also where Dr. Orpheus walks up, and like the way that you flirt in this world with villainy is just to go up and prank somebody. Like he goes into the Monarch, punches him in the stomach, then gives him a magical hot foot and hands over his business card.
I love it.
I which is great.
His business card. You can see the business card in the art book, and it's all.
It looks like an escort's business card. It's like all romantic font and everything.
It's like
he said he wanted to be able to make a business card for a gentleman of the night, and they misunderstood him, and this is what he got, and he just went with it.
Oh goodness! So we have a little bit of a time cut. It's later in the afternoon, sun's lower, and Billy is trying to haggle for a shrink ray, and Rusty is impatient because Billy's like criticizing it. He's saying like, "Oh, you have a picture of a stick. You have a sticker of a shrink ray on the shrink ray. Like, oh, you can peel it off." Just Rusty is completely over it.
Yeah, it's a decal if you don't like it. Yeah, and just like how you would indicate that's a shrink ray. This is this episode has a few not great words.
Yeah.
This is one of them that Billy uses. There's a few of them actually.
They get them in like real quick. Like there's this one, and then there's a couple. Like there's like later. Yeah, it was actually kind of surprising. Like I mean, not to dwell on that too long, but it was very surprising that to hear like within rapid succession. I think Billy says most of them actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a bummer, but this little joke about like the shrink ray and how to label it as such, you know, what the image is for shrinking is good. And then we get, again, this is like just how quotable this is, very relatable, of Dr. Girlfriend standing outside the porta potties because the Monarch needs to use the bathroom here, and just him having all these trouble. It's like you know, with this, like the toilet is
2 inches higher than the one at home.
Oh, I looked inside.
Me off. Yeah, like just how gross porta potties are.
Yeah. Oh, I looked down.
You know, so nasty. Yeah, I looked down. The classic gross porta potty name is Honey Bucket.
Oh yeah.
That we have around here. There's a new one I noticed though that has a little anthropomorphic guy, and it's called Willie, like the name Willie Make It. And it shows a guy running to the porta potty, and it's this little character named Willie Make It.
Oh no!
And you're supposed to be in doubt, like it's a lot of suspense from this logo.
Are the door locks especially complicated?
The toilet. Yeah, they're all Jindosh locks. Like they're all this little logic puzzle. You do this Rubik's cube to get in. And you don't know if Willie's smart enough to make it in. Yeah.
Oh God.
Porta potties are fucking gross. Though.
They are.
Yeah.
No. Oh God, especially in summertime. But Monarch is, you know, in this undignified situation, making lots of noise and complaints. And our first appearance of Phantom Limb. Phantom Limb walks up. And basically starts like trying to sow discontent, saying, "Oh, a little birdie told me that you were going to be leaving the Monarch. That there's some trouble in paradise here." The little birdie was another villain we're going to see later, Tiny Eagle.
Yeah, but don't blame that on Tiny Eagle.
Yeah, that was
Tiny Eagle. Given this is kind of before they had their history.
Yes.
You know, it feels like fully laid out. So they definitely knew each other. It's implied, you know, after she denies the rumor, says she's very happy. And then when the Monarch comes out, she says, "I didn't even know him. Like, that guy's a dick. But I don't know him." This is before we actually learn about Queen Etheria.
Right.
And all of that jazz. But then, you know, again, one of the lines of the show here where she says, "How is it good?" She says, "Not good." He's like, "Really?" I heard. He goes, "Oh, it was all sound and fury, signifying nothing." I say that like 2 times a week.
It's amazing.
Like
it's like it's a great reference. It's very funny, and it's also incredibly accurate. Like that is
incredibly
an
accurate.
Experience everyone who has ever had to shit has had.
Yeah, totally. In an uncomfortable situation, it happens all the time.
Here like I said, all brokenhearted. Yeah.
You know, it's just a really all sound and fury signifying nothing is so good. And like I said, like 2004 was when I first saw this, and I say this like once or twice a week.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And have basically since then.
Well, have you seen a doctor?
Yeah, yes. They're just like, "We don't understand guts.
The human body's a mystery." Oh, that'll be $100, please. Okay.
I should probably stop going to Dr. Moron, the Cloud MD.
but it's the only one your HMO covers.
Can't prescribe. Honk honk.
It's weird that he always gives you a crayon afterwards to eat on the way home.
Yeah. He saw Patch Adams. And then he just stuck with it.
Through thick and thin. But yeah, I love that line. Again, it is one of my favorite kinds of things, the mixture of high and low language, the Shakespeare quote to talk about a failed attempt at using the restroom. Just
it's such a clear evocation. Like the whole episode, I think, is dominated by the Monarch's conversations, because he has such a clear voice very early on in the show, and it's such like you can very see that Doc Hammer really loves writing for the character.
Yeah,
because just the dialogue, it's so I don't even know how to describe it. It's just so distinct from anybody else on the show. Like there's definitely a comedic voice on the Venture Brothers, so characters will often sound a little similar, but there's something about the Monarch that he feels like the epitome of that voice. That sort of like constant snarky, hellish awareness of how miserable everything is, but just kind of going through it, being basically mildly annoyed all the time.
Yeah. Really, really good. We get over to the Hank speech here, where Dean sold his slice of the grinder, but didn't push the lemonade.
Is this a reference to something? Is it because it sounds like it's a reference to something, and I don't know if that's just because I've seen the episode so many times. I think I know it, but like it sounds like a reference to something.
I got basically the same speech given to me. This was a couple years before this episode aired. I worked at one of my first jobs, like as a teenager. This wasn't the golf course. It was at the mall It was at the mall when I worked at a popcorn stand, and I liked the popcorn stand because the smell sold the product itself. People like, oh, popcorn, come up and they spend 50 cents on a thing of popcorn, sold itself. It was great. But my boss was this guy who really thought, like, we need to push the candy corn, or not the candy corn, the caramel popcorn. Okay. Just like Cracker Jack kind of stuff. And he's like, and he told me this stuff right here, it's 50 cents for like 2 cents worth of popcorn. This over here, you need to sell this because it's $5 for 25 cents worth of ingredients. You need to sell this. And I didn't want to sell that, and that job didn't go well because, I didn't want to sell that.
I'm sure you ran into that later at like GameStop too.
Oh, of course,
you have to sell the power card.
Yeah, you have
to sell the gamer subscription.
Basically being told as a kid to push the thing with margin.
Like the fact that they're specifically referencing what is essentially a con, like the whole idea is we're setting them up to eat that feels like I don't know, it feels like it's probably a lived-in experience because everybody's had to work at a shitty job where you realize while you're working on it that capitalism is a horrible lie and we're all doomed.
Well, and I love that Hank has internalized this so much that he just instantly takes to it. Like, it's kind of a sophisticated idea for a 13-year-old boy. Like,
we sell this so we can charge them $2 for 10 cents worth of sugar water. The hoagie is a lost leader. What?
Like, what does that mean? Yeah, the passion is incredible. Like, it's just really, really good. I also have an affection for this lizard guy who just shows up a lot in the background but never really gets anything to do.
Oh, is he the one who gets melted later?
I don't think so. I think that's a different dude because he's wearing different clothes. The guy's wearing a lab coat.
Yeah.
The guy who would like to press charges. So the Monarch, needs to use the bathroom. He needs to find a real toilet. And he wants to cause a distraction. First he asks Dr. Girlfriend to do it, but she's like, I don't know how. He's like, come on, like anybody could cause a distraction here. And the way he does it is by shooting Baron Underbite with a little pellet. But then we also get introduced to another character who will become important later, Augustus St. Cloud. Here for the first time, who, just the way this episode is like endlessly quotable, like the whole girly mags,
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
It's like so good.
But Baron Underbird thinks that Augustus St. Cloud did it, so he kicks him. He slams into the guy with the plug for the power, with the power plug for the head, and so on. And this ultimately like leads to that one scientist being turned into the green goo, right?
Yeah. Yep. As the intangible fancy is being handcuffed for it. The 21 at the same time buys a lightsaber from Dr. Venture. He thinks it's a real one. He's using all the Monarch's money. And Dr. Venture's like, oh, you like that, huh? Kind of rejected him from the prototype phase, and the military didn't want them because they don't sword fight anymore.
It was like $1 million or $5 million.
$2 million in parts alone. And then of course it doesn't work. Right. Like that's the ultimate stinger on that.
Yep. Oh gosh. But yeah, he gets over to Dr. Orpheus. Orpheus wants to fight. Rusty's like, no, I know what to do for this. I'm going to go inside.
Let's go back to back. And I'm not going back to back with anyone. You go inside, protect the home front.
Yeah, that's surprisingly well-adjusted episode for Rusty. Like, he's just sort of above it all. Like, he's just kind of like, because like he's not actually trying to exist in the normal world. He's engaging with all these weirdos and freaks that he doesn't really like but can't find a place outside of. So he just sort of hangs out and makes his money and just sort of like lets all happen around him. It's great.
Yeah. He's willing to make it everybody else's problem.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other weird little just like background gags when they're buying 21 is buying the lightsaber, they're also selling a really specific Duran Duran shirt for an album called Seven and the Ragged Tiger, which is where the Reflex comes from. So if you're thinking about the Reflex by Duran Duran, it comes from that album. So just very specific detail. God,
I just love all this old crap.
Yeah.
I also love Monarch and Dr. Girlfriend being in being in the belly of the beast, being in Rusty's master suite.
This I mean, you guys quoted it last week, but just it is the most incredible insult ever. What can I do to this guy that life hasn't done already? It's like, I just that line. It's like the whole show. It's like so perfect.
Yeah, big thesis. And I feel like the last episode, which I don't think has come out yet, but we just recorded it about Are You There, God? It's Me, Dean, is showing the Monarch's version of that.
Yeah.
Like they're really good foils for each other because they're entirely defined by each other and entirely defined by mediocrity and failure. Like the Monarch having this shitty birthday party where he's incredibly bored because he can't do the one thing he likes to do is not that less pathetic than what's going on here with Doc.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of the just one of the mysteries of the early show for a while is they like keep saying, well, why do you hate him so much? And he says, oh, I have my reasons, and it's all this big mystery. But like one of the reasons that works as a mystery is because you don't really need to have it explained. Like the answer is eventually amazing, but like it's so obvious because they're basically the same person. It's why Dr. Girlfriend is so is sympathetic towards Rusty. She's not attracted to him because he's a pathetic, weird loser, but she's sympathetic towards him because they like the Monarch and Rusty have the same basic personality type. It's just that the Monarch is a little bit better adjusted because he decided to actually embrace the fantasy that he's stuck in, while Rusty is just constantly like battering his head against it because he can't be better than what he actually is. Which is why the ending of the show is so amazing. But anyway.
But just the fact that the Monarch is here and he gets to see it. Like Rusty doesn't get to see the bad birthday party, but like just Rusty's patheticness, or at least just kind of like how lackluster everything is. It is so profound that it causes an existential crisis for the Monarch himself. Just literally, what do I do here? Like nothing I destroy would actually take anything of value away from him.
He's dangerously close to becoming self-aware.
So he settles on like, oh, I'm going to use his restroom and then not flush. Like, let him see the wrath of the Monarch.
Who am I if this guy is this? If this is who he is, who am I? Really, really kind of death stuff for mostly being about jokes about fucking bottom shelf in somebody's toilet, or like having sex on his bed and making him like writhe in their biological after waste or whatever he says.
Was it genetic something? Genetic
genetic leavings
leavings. Let's make some stains. But neither of them into it. They're having this kind of ennui. Outside, Brock is fighting the power plug guy, just beating everybody up. Where 21 walks up to him to challenge him to a fight and does the Star Wars kid dance from the viral video. Which I love how that places this in time. They also talked about there's a guy with a computer for a head, and the reason why they did that was because of the Fensler films, like I'm a computer. Like G.I. Joe edits, and it's like, that was what it was like in 2004.
I remember. Oh god, those heady days.
Too bad your ass got signed.
Man, remember back when like viral videos or memes would last for longer than like 20 minutes on Twitter?
Dude,
stuff would go on for like weeks at a time. Like you could like mail them home or something.
We had like a full season of Fensler films. It was like 5 months of that. The cycle was so long. Long enough for the entire, like, for them to like conceive of and animate a TV show. So just incredible stuff. He does the Star Wars kid moves here, and it turns out the lightsaber does not work.
Right.
Which is great. Like, I still would love this laser beam that doesn't kill anything but just looks cool.
It ends at a point. That's impossible.
It's super impossible. I'm kind of surprised that Brock doesn't kill him.
Right.
At this point, doesn't seem like something Brock would do.
It feels like they're actually kind of in the like. Well, I mean, this episode was written earlier, so you can't really say that they're coming into the character. But it feels more like a later season Brock that he doesn't murder him. Like it feels. It does feel, it feels in the context of the first season, it does kind of have like that vibe of, these characters are going to be important, so we can't actually have Brock murder them, or we're going to use these guys again. But yeah, it's actually kind of a weirdly sweet moment. Like he's just sort of like, I'm not even going to bother.
Yeah, you're below.
I can kind of like retcon it and say like, 21 has been around forever. Brock has probably run into him before, so like he understands that he's harmless. And of course, Brock knows when he's looking at this thing that it's not actually a dangerous toy. So it kind of doesn't matter that 21 thought he was going to kill Brock.
Yeah. He knows it's not going to work, because Doc built it.
Yeah.
When they switch over to, the Monarch and Dr. Girlfriend inside, there's an amazing image here where they find this family portrait. Here, that thing is incredible. That's also in the art book of like Dean in his like little cowboy doing like a tiger beat pose, dressed up as a cowboy. And like Hank in an ugly Christmas sweater and Brock trying to smile.
Brock's
like it's an
smile
amazing
is so
image.
good. That grimace that he has on.
I would love to have like a print of that was the size of the portrait with a frame just on the wall.
That would be awesome.
That'd be a really cool piece of like merch.
And one of the things I love about it is like a subtle runner through the whole show, and I don't think they ever really get into it, is nobody ever really asks, why does Rusty have kids? Like he goes to great efforts to keep those kids alive. Well, technically speaking, like keep a version of those kids alive. And like he doesn't seem to really like them that much. He sort of eventually kind of comes around to liking Dean a bit. And I don't think he hates the kids, but I think it's one of the most important things about the character that they actually keep really low key is that he's just trying to follow in his father's footsteps in every possible way, even though he hates it.
Yeah. He's stuck.
Yeah. Oh gosh, but Monarch and Dr. Girlfriend are in the lab, and they can't bring themselves to do anything. This is where we get the line, what can I do to this guy that life hasn't done already? And Dr. Girlfriend thinks, okay, this is probably the time. Like, hey, we need to talk. Getting ready to have this relationship talk, because the rumors are true. That Phantom Limb was kind of hinting at before.
Yeah, that she's unsatisfied, and this will play out, kind of back and forth. And they're all at their lowest moment, but then the guys, the Secret Service style agents, break in. He pulls. It looks like he's going to attack Dr. Girlfriend, but really, this is what gives him his groove back, and he does a Monarch monologue here, about a very like from Hell's Heart I stabbeth thee, kind of thing.
Oh, the animation here. The animation and the angle, like it's not. We haven't really talked. I guess. Well, you guys have already addressed it in earlier episodes. The animation in the episode, there's like a lot. It's better than the other first season stuff, but it's still the pacing and the timing always feels a little bit airless. But like every so often, they'll get like an angle, and it just. I don't even know if they would actually do this later in the show because it's a little too grotesque. But just like the slight, like you're looking up at him and the way his face looks, he almost looks huge, and then you see Dr. Girlfriend standing in the background just looking a little bit uncomfortable. It's amazing.
His his pose that he puts on, like it's Doc Hammer has cited this as an inspiration for him. Like it's the reason why the cold opens are all in this really restricted letterbox. But like there's definitely kind of an anime kind of vibe to some of the poses that he does when he's doing his villain speech kind of thing, and some of those canted angles, like extreme low angle kind of compositions that are there. So like it's definitely extremely heightened in a way that feels pulled from that kind of media.
It always read to me, and this isn't just Gary being anti-anime. It always read to me as old like 60s Marvel comics. Like it looks like Jack Kirby art to me.
Yeah, it has the heart, like the lines and the angles are really harsh.
It just like that's kind of how the Fantastic Four used to look.
Oh, we also just sorry briefly before I forget, we do see also Mr. Impossible in here, don't we? Like in the background. And the earlier just
Professor, please.
Yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We don't want to get into doctor discourse.
You're going on Twitter. Yeah, he's not a real professor.
Kiddo.
Oh God, kill me now.
Doctor Discourse. Fuck this planet.
I'm Doctor Discourse.
Dr. Discourse should be a Venture Brothers villain.
Getting discourse to Dr. Discourse.
Oh gosh! But when he finishes his speech, he throws down a smoke bomb and he grabs Dr. Girlfriend and grapples out. Or so we think, because the post credits stinger gag is like all he did was go up to the ceiling.
Yeah,
and they have to hang there until everybody leaves.
I'm torn about this gag because it's really funny in terms of the way it undercuts that speech, but it's also sort of like no one looked up. It's almost straight, like it just strains plausibility just enough that I noticed. Like I'm glad they put the joke in there. It's not even really a criticism, but I just sort of like they're not that the ceiling isn't that high up, guys.
It's also a little bit of like a straight putt, easy joke.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like, using the grapple hook and just like, it doesn't always go somewhere.
Yeah.
As kind of a thing. It does have that, like we had to end the episode. Like
Yeah.
while this is happening, there's a huge battle happening out on the yard. But because it's the Venture Brothers, that's not what we're going to spend time on.
No.
We're going to spend time on the real life consequences of this, larger than life action. It reminded me a lot of, there's that Simpsons joke where Homer is staying up to eat the 64 slices of American cheese, and Mr. Burns and Smithers get stuck on the ceiling. During it, there was like basically the same joke.
Yep.
Yeah.
When they're trying to steal Bobo. Which is, I'm not saying that they stole it or anything.
No. It's just it's kind of the similar. Yeah. But
I think what makes it specific to the Venture Brothers is the fact that he has to talk to Dr. Girlfriend, like just her kind of like completely over it look, and he's just like, and I love how like the whole episode he's not. You really have an interesting conversation about what kind of boyfriend he is, because he's not. I don't think he necessarily cruel to her, but there is this general sense of like him not being completely oblivious because he's so caught up in his own shit that like he doesn't even realize that this might, like, he's mildly embarrassed, but he doesn't realize that this might be incredibly uncomfortable and like kind of like not a great thing to do with your girlfriend.
Yeah. Well, this is me being a million years old, but all I could think about were the ergonomics of it.
Oh yeah.
Oh god. Like, man, my back would hurt.
Oh god, your arm would be like pulling out. Oh yeah.
Notwithstanding the fact that a grappling hook powerful enough to pull you up would also yank your shoulder out of its socket.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is really body horror, is what this is. This is like a nightmare. All right. I like it more. Yeah.
It's like the Bedtime Stories episode, The Squat. Yeah.
It's very similar to The Squat. Like, like just having to hold a position for.
Oh my god, guys! I've tried watching that show. I got through the second episode. It gave me a nightmare.
That's a real speed bump.
I read the plot summary of like, what is it? I'm looking forward to hearing you guys talk about Tornado, because I read the plot summary of that, and why do I keep censoring myself? My fucking god, that's everybody should listen to the Bedtime Stories episodes. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
thank you.
This is referring to Unfilmable, our Patreon bonus show, which is at $5 a month.
Yeah.
So join us there. That's basically the end of the episode. There. What a segue into plugs. Segue Lord. Do we have any other wrap up thoughts on this episode before we move on?
No, I don't. I mean, I like the I think that this is joke heavy, and I forgot how much this kind of laid track for the interesting relationship dynamics between Monarch and Dr. Girlfriend. I forgot how much of that was actually kind of the movement that happens here. Like that's what this episode moves forward. Yeah.
I think I pretty much said most of my piece. I love the feeling that this episode gets of the fact that the whole show is about living in the shadow of greatness, living in what, like, the memories of what things used to be. In its way, it's like, it's as much like it's kind of like The Sopranos in that way. And that, like, we're all basically looking back at when America used to be great, when we were heroes, when we could believe in ourselves, and now you're just stuck with all this crap. All this stuff, even if it's like incredibly powerful crap, it's meaningless. It doesn't get you what you want. It doesn't make you happy. And so you have, like, it's not a really a Rusty heavy episode, which I was surprised about, because I will say that Rusty is actually my favorite character on the show. So I wasn't disappointed, but I was like, oh, this isn't actually a big Rusty one. But it's basically so fundamental in his character. It's like they're all living in this world of, like, you're just picking over the remains of what used to be, and like there's like an inherent, like, recognition of that, and it's not so sad that it's miserable. Like, I don't come away from the show feeling depressed. But it's one of the things that I love the most about Venture Brothers is finding this humanity in, and again, this isn't like, I'm not trying to say this is deeply moving or anything, but finding this fundamental humanity and recognition in this feeling of never being able to live up to the standards that like came before you, never being able to actually, like, be the hero anymore, just having all the, like, crap at a yard sale that you buy for maybe $5. It's just great. It's so cool.
Yeah. For me, I love this episode kind of introducing the Where's Waldo aspect of this show. Like just kind of like searching the background for cameos, that are meaningful, like, these characters are, but also just incredibly fun visual gags. Like, as somebody who, one of the things I'm learning from this whole bit is that I am such a fan of the way that, Jackson Public does character design. Like, just his drawings and concepts are, just incredible to me. Like that tick DNA of like, what if there is a pun villain and it's just a silly image and that's it, is incredibly powerful to me. And this is one of the first episodes that's like really feels like not about that, but it's a major component, Yeah.
Love it.
Very good.
Yeah. Zach, do you have anything you want to plug? Where can people find you?
Oh, sure. I have a Twitter account, Z Handlen, where I whine a lot about things and I'm sarcastic. I still am doing reviews for the AV Club, so I'm reviewing Star Trek Discovery now, and I had a review of The Expanse, basically sci-fi stuff. Occasionally I'll pop up on the page. I have a Patreon. Unfortunately, it's a Patreon with a very, very limited interest set. It's about Star Trek Voyager and only Star Trek Voyager because I haven't gotten off my ass to do anything else. But if you like Star Trek Voyager, boy, do I have a Patreon for you. So yeah, it's just Z Handlen. And if you like X-Files, I also co-wrote a book of reviews of every episode of the X-Files.
Oh, nice.
Monsters of the Week. It's got speaking of great artwork, it's got really amazing artwork. And it's comprehensive. It's reviews of everything. And that is available wherever fine products are sold. And I think that is about it.
Cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to do an X-Files rewatch for a long time, and if I do, I'll definitely pick that up.
No, thank you.
And kind of move through.
Actually, let me know if you want a free copy, because I can always mail one.
As somebody who is also has a book, I am very familiar with the barrage full of copies of a book. So,
I can even sign them and give them out to people because it's a co-authored book, so it'd be like a disappointing gift.
Eventually, when I'm burning copies of Atomic for warmth, ironically, like I'm looking forward to that. Just eating the glue that binds the pages. You should definitely do that. If you're on our Slack, which you can do, we mentioned the Patreon. Zach, you're also really active in the Slack.
Yeah, so the Slack is great.
I'm sure it'll be a treat
definitely
for people.
Support these guys. The Slack is wonderful. It's a really welcoming and warm and friendly community. And yeah, it's been a bit of balm in these troubled times. Whenever I am too sick of Twitter to be on Twitter, I can just go to the Slack and hang out with people who don't shout about stupid things.
Yeah, they're not on Twitter. It's not Twitter.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's got that going
How do you
for
do
it.
that?
If you want to support us, we mentioned patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. You get episodes of this a week early. You also get a bunch of bonus shows. You can support us by doing that. You can support us by telling your friends. You can support us by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcast or Podcast Addict or anywhere you find reviews. Yeah, I think that's it.
Think so.
This will come out after Duckstream. Is that correct?
Yes. Not necessarily. It will come out a little bit after Duckstream, so it's been a couple of weeks. But I think that it is not too premature to say thank you to everybody who watched and contributed.
Yeah, we really appreciate you. Hopefully it went well.
Yeah.
We record all these things before the thing. And it's just like, I just always think about them being played in a documentary later.
Little did they know what horrible events were waiting for them.
Well, no, I mean,
just ironic voiceover.
We'll record the version in case things go bad after this, though. So
yeah. Just we always knew it was going to be a tragedy.
Yeah, but we were whistling past the graveyard for all those years, huh?
Yeah, like our luck had run out. So thanks everybody for listening. And until next time,
go Team Venture.
They always do that.